Happy New Year! Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Hillary, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through the books that I want to read in January. I hope you all had a great New Year. I don't necessarily go crazy for New Year's Eve celebrations or anything, but I did have dinner with a group of friends last night and spent some time at one of their houses afterwards. Nothing too crazy, although we were walking home before midnight and just saw some crazy people out. There were just a lot of people out in the streets, some people walking in front of cars. We saw a guy sprinting for some reason who, I guess he tripped and fell shoulder first into the sidewalk and immediately got back up and kept sprinting. So just kind of crazy. I haven't really celebrated New Year's Eve like that in several years. Now I just prefer a more chill night, but I hope that you had a great celebration, whatever it was that you did. Honestly, curling up with a good book sounds like an ideal New Year's Eve to me, but hey, that's just me. So you'll notice that my book counter is back at 0. This is something that my sister gave me for my birthday. It was really fun having it in the 170s. I ended up reading 174 books in 2025, which is a little crazy. I don't necessarily set out to read that many books. It just kind of happens. Books make me so happy, and not just the actual act of reading the books, but the community that comes along with it, being able to talk about books with people and making connections with people who like the same things and, you know, had similar reactions to certain books that I've read. Like that's the part that kind of keeps me going more so than the books by themselves, even though the books by themselves are great. As I was preparing for this video, I was kind of looking through my TBR to be like, okay, what are these books about? To give myself a little refresher. And I've noticed a few themes. Several of the books on my January TBR have some sort of historical aspect. There's quite a bit of fantasy, and then there's quite a bit of queer romance. And you know what? I'm pretty happy about that. I think that that's going to shape up to be a really great TBR. Now, all of the books on my January TBR are books that I own. It is one of my goals for 2026 to read, well, it's always a goal of mine to read the books that I own, but I would say I'm going to try harder to prioritize the books that I own. So for example, or a lot of times in 2025, a book club would pick a book that I didn't own, and because it was for a book club, I would prioritize it. This year, I want to do it a little bit differently. I want to look at what the book club picks are, and if it's something that I already own, that book club becomes the priority for me. Not to say that I won't be reading books that I don't own, or you know, be going to book clubs where the book was something that I didn't own before the meeting or anything like that. It's just, those are going to be the priority. Like for example, this month, one of my book clubs picked The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow, and I definitely want to read that book, but I don't own it, and I do own these 9 books. So these are going to be a priority over me reading that book and going to that book club. I'm going to kind of see how that ends up working out, because like I just said, the community aspect of it is very important to me, and so I don't want to get to a place where I'm, you know, skipping out on chances to build community and hang out with people because of that. So it's going to be a balancing act, I'm sure, but it's just something that I'm going to try for 2026. Okay, so I'm going to go through the 2 book club books that are on my January TBR first. The first one is going to be The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This is a historical fantasy, although I have heard from people who have read it that it reads more like literary fiction with magical realism. So from what I know about this book, the main character makes a bargain to live forever, but as a consequence of that bargain, is cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets. So I imagine this book deals with loneliness and, you know, what that means to go through life and never really build connections or relationships and things like that. So that sounds extremely up my alley, and I'm glad that we picked this one. Our book club meeting for this is on January 8th, so this might be the first book that I pick up this month. The second book club book that is on my January TBR is The City of Brass. I have this beautiful edition from the Bookish Box. This is a historical fantasy set in 18th century Cairo, and I believe the FMC is a con woman who accidentally conjures a mysterious jinn warrior, and in doing so sort of realizes that this magical world she thought was fake is actually real. And that sounds amazing to me. I'm so glad we picked this book. Also because I've had the entire trilogy on my shelves for a bit of time now, and I'm so excited to get into them and see if it's something that I love. I kind of feel like I might. I'll go ahead and show you all 3 of the books in these beautiful special editions. Okay, so here's all 3 books in the trilogy. And I'll also show you the spines. I'm guessing from the designs that there's maybe a main character of each book that might be different from the last. I'm not sure though. So there's the first book, City of Brass. Here's the second book, Kingdom of Copper. And the third book, Empire of Gold. So these are absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to dive in. For the rest of the books on my TBR, I'm going to go in the order of the books that have been on my shelf the longest to the least amount of time. I don't know why, it's just what I feel like doing. So the Vanishing Half is historical fiction. It is about twin sisters who were separated around age 16. One sister stays in her southern Black community where she grew up. The other leaves. The other sister can pass for white and is married to a white man who has no idea about her past. The description of the book says the fates of the twins intertwine. As far as I can tell, this book will be a great discussion of what it means to be passing in America and a generational story that will have impacts for future generations. So this one sounds fantastic. Next, we have One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This is a queer contemporary romance that involves time travel, and I have heard that a lot of people think this is Casey McQuiston's best book. Now, I know fans of Red, White, and Blue might disagree. I have read a few of this author's books and have had various feelings about each one, so I'm curious to see after reading this if I also think this is the author's best book. Next, we have The Song of Achilles, which is a queer historical fantasy that involves Greek mythology. Anytime I see someone talking about this book, they talk about how it was emotionally devastating, they were sobbing, so consider me ready to be emotionally ruined. I have read Circe by the same author, although it was several years ago and I was in a very different place in my reading journey. I didn't love it at the time. I don't think that's any reason for me to count this book out. I want to be ruined. Next, we have The Bridge Kingdom, which is the first book in a series, and I own almost every book in this series, so it is about time that I get started so I can start knocking some of those off of my TBR. This is a romantasy about a warrior princess who is on a mission to kill her enemy, only to find out that she has actually been sent to him to be his bride. That sounds so juicy, like a great enemies to lovers. I mean, she's trying to him, but has to marry him. I can't wait to see what those dynamics end up looking like and how that kind of plays out with the politics and things like that. As far as I understand, this series is like a set of duologies where each duology focuses on different characters. And so this one and the second book would focus on the same characters. So I really hope I love this, and then I can just keep going with the series and knock more books off of my physical TBR. The next 2 books are ones where I own the audiobook instead of the physical book, and then the ebook is available on Kindle Unlimited, so I will read it that way. And the first one is A Tongue So Sweet and Deadly. This is book 1 in the Compelling Fates saga, and as far as I know, all books in this series are out now. I think the 4th book may have just come out. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's the case. I first saw Emmy from Emmy Reads read this book and absolutely devour the whole series, and since then I've been seeing friends of Emmy who are reading it and loving it. Like recently, Larry Reads really enjoyed this one, and I've also seen Laura and Bailey read this one. So I'm just very curious because it kind of seems like people are really eating it up. It seems binge worthy, so if I love it, I've got 3 more books after that that I can binge and get through the whole series if I really love it. This is a romantasy, and we are in the Fae world. The main character is half Fae, I believe, but has a magical power where she can compel anyone to do her bidding merely by looking in their eyes. That sounds, it's kind of like a vampire power, right? But it sounds really compelling. I've heard A lot of good things about the politics in this series. I could be wrong. I could be thinking of the wrong series, but this might be a love triangle situation. So, you know, I love me a good love triangle. I really want to check this one out. The next one is Us by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. This is a continuation of the book Him, which is a male-male hockey romance between Ryan or Wes and Jamie. It's not a spoiler to say that the first book had a happily ever after. They did end up together. That's how romance novels work. So this is a continuation where they are still together, they are still in love, but they are having to deal with the fact that Wes is still closeted because he is playing for the NHL and doesn't want people to know that he is gay and that he is in a relationship with a man. And Jamie loves Wes so much, but is having to kind of deal with what that means for him and what that is like to be in a relationship and to have to keep everything private. I'm expecting this one to be a little bit sad, but hoping that they can work through things and find a way to be authentic in their love for each other in a way that works for them. All right, the last book on my January TBR is The Long Game by Rachel Reed. This is the 6th book in the Game Changers series. It is a continuation of Ilya and Shane's story from Heated Rivalry, but more so a continuation of all of the events that have happened throughout the Game Changers series. So I'm currently working my way through. I've already read the first 4 books. I do still have to read Role Model, but I have loved seeing the little places where Ilya and Shane's story have kind of popped up, as well as Scott Hunter and Kip have been popping up throughout the books. Each book in the series continues from the end of the book before that. So the events that happen in each book, the next book happens after that. So it's kind of a continuation into the future. And as far as I understand, this is about 2 years maybe after the events that happened in Heated Rivalry, but will be right after the events of Role Model. So I'm loving working my way through this series. I have heard that this one might devastate me, that they handle some really tough things. I'm ready. I love them so much. I can't wait to know what happens. As far as I know, season 2 of the show is going to be based on this book. So, you know, just trying to make the Heated Rivalry love last as long as possible. I'm so excited to be back with Ilya and Shane. All right, that's going to be it for my January TBR. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books. Please keep it spoiler free, but let me know your thoughts. And be on the lookout throughout the month for some reading vlogs that I might be posting of reading these books. Also, let me know in the comments, what are some books that are on your January TBR? Do we have any in common? I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching this video and for checking out my channel. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for future videos. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!